everybody, it's Stewart A. Swerdlow.
And Janet Swerdlow.
And this is the Expansions News Podcast for the first week of July 2015. And so to those in Canada, happy Dominion Day, Canada Day week. And to the United States, a happy Independence Day, 4th of July, but we all know it's a bunch of crap.
But what about happy anniversary to us in a couple of days?
Oh, but
because this is our anniversary.
Week.
No, it's this week.
Well, it's coming up. It's not for this.
It's this week.
Oh, actually, by the time you probably see
week.
this, it'll be this week.
This
yes,
is Sunday.
I know.
This
I know
is the
when
first
it
day
is.
of this week. This is this week.
Okay, back to me.
This is this week.
Yes, it's our anniversary this coming week.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And anyway, can I go on now?
Well,
Finished? Are you ready?
I thought
you
you were
finished?
going to make the call for gifts.
Well, I did that already. Nobody sent anything.
Well, so that's why you should do it again.
Yeah. So yeah, it's our anniversary week, and I haven't gotten any gifts.
Yeah. We wanted to go somewhere fun.
I know, and nothing. So I'm going to be checking my mailbox this week, people.
All right, now you can go on.
Okay, thank you. It's okay, because now you reminded me that they did not send gifts, so I appreciate that.
Okay. I thought you would, otherwise you'd be mad at me later because I didn't remind you.
Well, I'll be mad at you later anyway, but probably for other things.
That's probably true.
Anyway,
it's always my fault.
Back to the news, and we're going to go into space first.
I have a space story.
Well, maybe you don't have this one. It's about the dark spots on Pluto.
No, it's not mine.
No, and I don't mean the Disney character.
No?
No, this is the planet, or the mini planet, whatever they're calling it these days. Planet. Yeah, there's mysterious dark spots on Pluto, and they are evenly spaced along Pluto's equator, and they each have a diameter of 300 miles. So you have these equally spaced dots, equal distant, equal size. Gee, you think that's a natural formation?
Probably.
Probably NASA would say that too, but you know what they did say?
What?
It's a real puzzle. We don't know what the spots are, and we can't wait to find out.
That's what they said about Ceres last week that I reported.
That's what I was going to say. They said the lights in the pyramids on Ceres, the pyramids on Mars, and obviously they're not natural formations. And as my OMG group knows, and other people have come to our seminars and conferences, Pluto is a Kuiper Belt vehicle. And so that's what they're going to find out. Will they tell public? Probably not that. They'll say something else, but we'll see what happens.
Well, they downgraded it from a planet.
Yeah, well, now it's going to be a spaceship.
Okay.
Now, let us go to California.
Okay.
Okay, because now people in California, especially Southern California, pay attention, because a natural helium leak in Southern California reveals that the Newport-Inglewood Fault is deeper than once thought, with a direct line from the Earth's surface to the planet's mantle. That's not good. Scientists have found high levels of helium-3 in oil wells up to 3 kilometers deep in Orange County, along a 48-kilometer stretch from LA west side to Newport Beach that goes along the coastline. Helium-3 comes only from the Earth's mantle and is beneath the rock layer under the crust. So that means that crack, that fault line is going all the way down. That's not a very stable thing. And according to Jim Bowles, who is a professor at the University of California, Santa Barbara, he says, the fault, which I don't think people had anticipated, was deeply connected. And this has implications for the underground structure of the Los Angeles basin, which is now not correct. Geologists believed, past tense, the area to be underpinned by a low angle thrust fault line, but this now shows it's a deep plunge. Now, any of you who've come to my conference, what have I said? I always show you with my hands the deep plunge and the folding underneath of the Los Angeles basin zone. This is much more dangerous. They're finally admitting that. They also found a layer of metamorphic rock called blue schist, don't say that too fast, at the bottom of deep wells in the Newport-Inglewood Fault Zone, and the minerals in the blue schist form only in very particular conditions in which rock gets pushed deep underground and then rapidly pushed up. Again, that's not a good thing. The subduction zones are not typically places where high levels of helium-3 are found. But you know where they find them?
Where?
In places where the ocean floor is spreading in the deep ocean, like the Hawaiian Islands, and you know where else? Yellowstone, volcanic activity. And guess what this Mr. Bowles also said? The only thing you can say is that this fault looks like it's more significant than people thought. Duh! I've been saying that for decades. And in terms of how deep it goes and what it communicates with, this is not a good sign. People in LA area, Southern California, you should have been out yesterday, and I'm not trying to scare you, but I am. Now, let's go to the sky. We were in space, we were below the Earth. Now let's go in the sky. Because you know what? In Texas, they saw on June 29th a cubed shape UFO in the sky.
Did they get a picture?
Yes, they did, and this should be on the link that on this podcast. I think the Borg came.
Maybe.
I think we're all going to be assimilated.
Maybe already assimilated. We don't know it.
Well, this Mr. Walter C. Lance in El Paso, Texas, was the first person to submit the photographs of this object on June 25th, 2015 at 1 p.m. Central Time during his lunch break. Well, I don't know what he was drinking for lunch, but it did photograph. And according to this report, it got very windy outside, and then clouds started to swirl in a circle, forming this portal shape, and then this black UFO square thing came out. Very, very interesting. And I will, as a side note to this, as you know, I spoke to someone I know in Russia yesterday, and according to this person in Russia, he photographed a fleet of UFOs over Moscow. They were red and blue in color. This was in broad daylight. Then the next day at night, they came back again. So he thinks it's Bluebeam Project, and they're getting ready for this event. Okay, so now we did that. We kind of can stay in Russia a little bit, but it's related to Russia, but I'll talk about woolly mammoths that they're trying to bring back, which we know they already have.
But they keep saying the same thing over and over.
Yes, but now it said a new analysis of the woolly mammoth genome reveals that they had adaptations that allowed them to live in sub-zero temperatures in the last ice age. Well, duh, that's why they lived in that time.
Right.
And allowed them to pack on insulating fat. They had smaller ears and all of that. They said that the findings enabled researchers to resurrect the woolly mammoth.
So maybe the key word is resurrect.
But here's another key word. As a hybridized Asian elephant. Now, they said that the woolly mammoth DNA was extracted from the hair of two mammoths found in Siberia several years ago. One mammoth died 20,000 years ago, and the other died 60,000 years ago. And did you know that up till 3,700 years ago, there were still woolly mammoths on Wrangel Island off of Siberia? That's not that long ago.
No.
Of course, we know that they still exist in parts of Siberia and have been photographed. In fact, the Soviet Army photographed them in the 1940s in Siberia, and you could see the woolly mammoth with his hair blowing in the wind and all of that stuff going on. So here's what they said. Instead of trying to create a 100% authentic mammoth, they're going to genetically cut and paste with a tool called CRISPR, which they don't really say what that is, which splices a handful of mammoth genes into Asian elephant cells. Why are they doing this? Well, we thought we'd make changes that are most likely to lead to an animal that looks and behaves and is adaptable to the cold like a mammoth. Let's look at that. They said that modifying Asian elephants with mammoth genes could help the modern-day subtropical creatures to live in colder climates. Why would they do that unless they know an ice age is coming? Interesting. Another animal story, which we've been hearing a lot. Oh, by the way, back to the California quake thing. There was a 4.2 in west central Oregon, which isn't a big deal for Oregon. But as we know, the Oregon state government has predicted a massive earthquake to hit Oregon at any time and advised people to carry backpacks.
Really?
So that if that happens, they have what
Where are they going to go?
Well, they'll have supplies with them because it's supposed to be really, really bad.
I hadn't heard that one.
Not only California, but Oregon and your homeland.
Yeah.
Washington
There was a small one there today, you said.
Yes. There's been a lot of them in Washington State. Anyway, Yellowstone National Park
One of my favorite places.
Yes, but there was a bison attacked 2 more visitors there over the past week for a total of 4 attacks in the park this season. One was a 68-year-old woman who was critically injured and hospitalized from the attack. Another attack occurred in June when, actually, they both were from Georgia. What's up with the Georgia people getting attacked by bisons?
Well, why were they so close to the bison?
Well, that's true because they're supposed to be at least 25 feet away, and they weren't.
25 feet is nothing if an animal decides to charge you.
Yes, they were walking to their car late at night after a swim, and the bison, they saw a bison laying 10 feet away, and they turned and ran, but they chased them and hit them and tossed them in the air. So the Yellowstone spokesperson said that there have been 4 incidents in less than 2 months, and we only have 1 or 2 a year. So something's going on in Yellowstone. Plus, I will remind everyone, recently, every day on the news, what do we see? An attack by sharks, bears, wolves, alligators, crocodiles, and lately, fish jumping into boats and killing people.
Oh, I didn't know about the killing.
The other day, a huge fish in a lake, a sturgeon, jumped in a boat and killed a 5-year-old girl that was in the boat. Yes.
How did it kill it? By the weight? Or
It
did
just
it bite
flopped
her?
on her and killed her.
Or it didn't bite her?
No, sturgeons don't bite, but they're big
I know they're
fish.
huge.
You know, and then they had a dolphin that jumped into a boat in, I think, Florida and broke this woman's legs.
Oh my.
So what's up with this, people? Is it an animal rebellion, frequency activations, or are these animals being agitated by seismic activity and undersea volcanic eruptions that spook them and scare them? And by the way, there's been now over 10 shark attacks in North Carolina.
You know, and they keep saying it. Why are they letting people on these beaches?
Why aren't they closing?
That's what you reported right in the
It's like,
beginning.
why are you letting people in the water?
Right.
Because some of it happens right at the shore.
I've read about that.
'cause the
People
sharks
standing in water. and
Yes,
they
yes.
Are being attacked.
Yeah, and the same also happening in Australia. So something
mindful.
spooking. Don't go swimming in the ocean. I wouldn't anyway. Now a follow-up. Remember last time I reported about the sudden death of the former White House chef in New Mexico, which was reported as a drowning, and I said something's odd. Well, guess what? Another story comes up. And it says that the sudden death of the top chef in the Clinton White House has triggered sensational claims, and there may be more to his untimely demise than meets the eye. And he was hired by First Lady Hillary Clinton. His name was Walter Scheib. His body was found June 21 in a remote area of New Mexico. He used to prepare their daily meals, and he could have known intimate secrets that threatened to derail Hillary's presidential run. And this is a former member of the Clinton's inner circle who leaked this information out. And know what he said? And I'm going to quote. "Isn't it odd that as Hillary is about to get into a vicious campaign, a guy who would have been in a position to overhear things that could scuttle her campaign just disappears?" He goes on and he says, "This has happened so many times, there's even a name for it. It's called Arkansas sides." Because you know that Bill Clinton was the governor of Arkansas, and they were the first 3 months. And so dozens of people vanished in their campaign. Were killed.
Right. We have talked about that before.
And according to insiders, here are the 4 secrets that could have been revealed by the chef. 1. Bill and Hillary's political pact forged after the Monica Lewinsky scandal. Hillary agreed not to divorce Bill in return for his supporting her future political career in the White House and Senate. 2nd, Hillary's lesbian affairs during the 1990s, which was reported in some other books. Clinton's source told the Inquirer Hillary repeatedly met a close female pal and rumored lover behind closed doors at a California hotel and a private Washington, D.C. residence. 3. A payout made by convicted felons before Bill left office in return for presidential pardons. After Bill granted a pardon to Almond Glenn Braswell, a convicted perjurer and mail fraud felon, Braswell paid $200,000 to Hillary's brother, Hugh Rodham, the next day.
Isn't Hugh dead? Is he still alive?
I don't know.
Seems like he was dead now.
I don't know.
I don't know.
And 4, the truth behind Vince Foster's death in May. We reported on new evidence suggesting the former White House counsel and alleged Hillary Paramour, boy, she was all over the place, was actually murdered and his body moved to make it look like a suicide. Well, we've known about that for a long time. Okay. And it said when the chef died, he easily could have detailed knowledge of any or all of these bombshells. His body was found 8 days after he went missing during a hike in the mountains near Taos, New Mexico. While authorities have labeled the death an accidental drowning, this insider says, and I'm going to quote again, "I'm not saying the Clintons had anything to do with it, but there's one thing that's consistent with them. When they get back into power, people start dropping like flies."
Yeah, that is true.
But he's not saying they did anything.
No. Well, you don't know what happened. All
I
right,
think we do.
on to me.
You.
All right, I've got some, of course, interesting stories.
Yeah, like mine weren't.
The first one is about NASA. It's getting ready to test a plane that they hope to use on Mars.
A plane on Mars.
Well, this is an interesting story because
That Mars airline?
it's saying that Earth's atmosphere, there's a part of it that's relevant as to the one on Mars. Now, I've never heard that before. But
Well,
if
that
they go
says something.
Yeah, so if they go up high enough, apparently, that's what they're claiming, about 100,000 feet above the Earth. It's like Mars. So that was interesting.
So they're saying Mars does have an atmosphere.
What they're saying. And so they're wanting to use this so they get a better look. And
Right.
so it says they're testing a small plane. Now get this, small plane. I want you to keep that in mind because it says due to limitations on the weight of objects that can be carried to Mars, this plane will have to be under 2.5 pounds. Now does that sound like a plane?
No. Well, a little tiny eating baby
Yeah.
one.
It says if all goes well, the glider could be en route to the Red Planet by the early 2020s. Once there, it will help NASA investigate the Martian surface and locate optimal landing sites for the anticipated manned mission.
Okay, I'll translate. We already know what's there. We've been there for decades and decades, but we're given a cover story to throw you off track.
But I mean, isn't that just the strangest thing? A plane. And so
It's
I'm
just
reading this thing and
ridiculous.
so what, 2.5 pounds? Then it goes on.
Why? I mean, they sent hundreds and billions of pounds to Mars
It's
all
just,
the time.
Absolutely incredible. So now next one is very interesting to me too. Now I've not heard this one before, but apparently lawmakers have introduced a bill to make Washington D.C. the 51st
Oh, that's
state.
been for decades.
Well, apparently I hadn't heard that one before.
Yes, yes.
Because it says that the District of Columbia is actually home to 600,000 people.
That many.
That many, but it says they don't have a vote in either Chamber of Commerce. Now, one thing that you and I know, but maybe our viewers don't know, is that the people who live in Washington, D.C. are actually not subject to state law.
Because they're not living in a state, they're
That's
living in
right.
a federally separate area.
Yeah, and so actually there are things that can happen in like medical laws, and FDA doesn't have any jurisdiction there, so they can actually do a lot of things
In D.C.
in
that you can't
DC
do
that we
anywhere
can't
else.
do. In fact, we had looked for a variety of reasons. We were exploring somebody that we knew needed medical dental work, and we were advised by a physician to talk to medical people in Washington, D.C. because they can do different things than the other states can do. That's how I found this out a few years ago.
Apparently all the politicians can do things there that
Apparently.
others don't.
Well, anyway, apparently there is also a companion bill which was introduced by DC's delegate in the House, Eleanor Holmes Norton, that would create the new state called New Columbia. So I wondered
Interesting.
what do you think that's about?
I think that's about the goddess Columba, who was actually Semiramis, Mary Magdalene, all that kind of stuff, all rolled into one.
All right, well, they also
And then they
talked...
create a new holy empire.
Okay, so I thought that was very telling. Now, this was also interesting because, again, terms I haven't used maybe or heard, maybe you know them. DC also currently has 2 shadow senators. Are you familiar with that term?
It means that they are, but they aren't.
Well, that's what it says. It says they're not officially seated in the Senate, but they promote the cause of the district with the senators. So they're like legislators, or what do they call those people? Not legislators, but...
Spies.
Well, yeah, that'll work. Anyway, under the new legislation, the New Columbia will have representation. But what's interesting to me now is they're not doing away with Washington, D.C.
Well, what do you mean do away with it?
Well, because they're not just going to call Washington, D.C. New Columbia. They're actually going to have Washington, D.C., but it would be limited to the federal monuments, the White House,
Right.
the Capitol complex, Supreme Court. So they're
Right.
still going to have that district.
So it'll be like a city within a city.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
So I thought that, anyway, just
Like
interesting.
London, the city of London
Exactly.
in London.
So we're going to watch this story and see what happens. And then Pope Francis, one of my favorite topics since he
We should invite him
apologized
for lunch when he comes
to the
country.
Waldensians, of course. He's now, this is again so ironic to me, he's going to highlight, quote, the plight of the poor during his trip to Ecuador, Bolivia, and Paraguay. He's taking his Church for the Poor to 3 of South America's poorest and most peripheral countries. So what's he going to do down there? Because is he going to give money? Is he going to distribute his wealth? Is he going to feed them? What's he going to do down
Well,
there?
actually, I have friends in Bolivia.
Yeah.
And one of them wrote to me just the other day about this.
What'd they
and
say?
said that, Evo, the dictator of Bolivia, is connecting to the Pope so that the Pope legitimizes his evil rule and allows for certain rules and regulations under the guise of Catholicism.
Okay, well, that makes sense to me because we know he's not going to feed the poor and give away any of his money. It's just,
And first, most population of Bolivia is not Catholic. They are indigenous and they don't believe in it.
Yeah, so I mean, it's again some kind of a ruse for something else that's going on. And then I don't know if you heard about this one, but there were actually 3, this is kind of like your chef story. There are 3 alternative prominent doctors in Florida found dead in 2 weeks. Did you hear about that one?
Was one a woman?
Yeah, that was the last one. The first one was a controversial autism researcher, Dr. Jeff Bradstreet, MD. He was found in a river with a gunshot wound to his chest on June 19th.
Which you said was accidental death, right?
No, that's still under
Or natural catastrophe.
No, still under investigation. Then it said, and actually, just before he died, listen to this one, he had a run-in with the feds, and his office was raided by the feds just days before he died.
Yeah, so that means he probably discovered that autism is caused by dolphin genetics, which were injected by vaccinations into people.
And they got rid of him.
Right.
Now we have Dr. Bruce Hedendahl, a chiropractor and a PhD who died suddenly on Father's Day.
That's terrible.
He was found in his car. He was dead, but the car was not running. There was no car accident. He was just in his car, deceased. He exercised earlier in the day. Friends, family say he was in top physical condition. And it said besides being a chiropractor, he had a PhD in nutrition from Harvard. And so they don't know what's caused his death.
So he must have found out something. They put some poison on his steering wheel and he touched it and dropped dead.
It's possible. And then the last one, it said, was this woman was described as a beautiful, intelligent MD, Teresa Ann Sievers.
Right.
Apparently, her family had gone to Connecticut for a gathering, and her family stayed, and she returned home. So they say they don't know what happened, they just know she was murdered. And apparently, now this was also very interesting to me, the Lee County Sheriff's Office declined to discuss the case, saying it was an ongoing homicide investigation. But listen to this one. They assured neighbors there was no threat in the area. This woman is murdered and there's no threat in the area.
Well, they could suspect her husband.
No, the husband is in...
No, he could have hired someone.
Well, that's possible. But they said they reminded residents to lock their doors.
Yeah, but there's no threat, but lock your doors.
Right. So anyway, very odd. So we have to keep our eye on this story as well. And then, moving along to legal issues, apparently wearable tech can now be used against you in a court of law.
A wearable what?
Wearable technology. Technology. According to this particular story, as an example, it was talking about a woman in Pennsylvania who had been, she filed a false report about a rape that happened. And I don't know if you've heard of this. It's called Fitbit. Are you familiar with that? People, I think they wear them. I've just kind of been noticing that passing along Facebook like recently.
What is it?
Kind of tracks what they're doing health-wise, I guess, where they walk, what they walk.
Oh, I thought you have that. It's on your iPhone or your
I don't know. It's called Fitbit anyway. And it's some kind of a wearable device. Well, anyway, apparently she claimed that she'd been raped, but her Fitbit device showed that she was awake and active, and she had told police officers she was sleeping. So anyway, it says that it's likely we'll see more Fitbits being trotted out in courts in the future as the wearable trend takes hold and self-tracking leads to self-incrimination.
So in other words, they're going to make a law that you have to have that.
Well, apparently it says it's whether Fitbit, Apple Watch, or Google Health wristband. Apparently people are talking about privacy issues now. And that says the police generally may not, without a warrant, search digital information on a cell phone seized from an individual who's been arrested. But anyway, civil liberties and privacy advocates have been pushing Congress to update the Electronic Communication Privacy Act to give citizens due process, so digital due process. So see what happens with that. And on the heels of that, there's another thing. We talked about, I think it was the black remember the black internet? We talked about that, where people were
Hidden-
selling
hidden-
drugs,
yeah,
those things. Now there's another term, which I hadn't heard before, maybe you have, it's called Internet of Things. Have you heard of that? This talking about going to mean the death of privacy, because it says...
Well, because it's not now, right?
Well, but it's going to get worse. Like we've talked about how it's not something that's behind the scenes. It's things that people know about. For example, it says, sooner or later your toothbrush will talk to your bathroom scale, into your car and your headphones. Everything's communicating within itself. So they call this Internet of Things. And apparently it's going to increase as we get connected to Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, mobile phone technology, and as they become increasingly more sophisticated. So right now, and remember what we always say. We say they're not going to come and force you to do anything. You do it voluntarily. So right now, Google search, Gmail, Apple Maps, it says monitor our life for the purpose but are free and helpful. So that everything is free. People download these devices. It's cheap. It's not expensive. And then the next thing you know, they're tracking you for information. And there's apparently a new report put out by McKinsey Global Institute called the Internet of Things, and claims that the Internet of Things could be worth $3.9 trillion to $11.1 trillion per year by 2025, or 11% of the global economy. And everything's going to be connected, from your car to the street lighting to jet engines, medical scanners, household appliances.
So there is a Borg.
It says they're going to know what you're going to be doing, and it says privacy will be dead even within your own home.
Already.
And then it's, of course, they're already talking about, Facebook and Instagram, about what can happen to the likes, if those can be used to monitor for marketing purposes. And as you know, because you and I were talking about this, if you look at something, next thing you know, you start getting emails and advertisements, and that's what it says here. So anyway, it says, will we be happy for criminals and governments to hack our houses and learn even more about who we are and what we think? So that's coming down the pike. And in Oregon, speaking of Oregon, they are implementing the nation's first per-mile road tax. Because with so many, they're saying so many, although I'm not really familiar with electric vehicles, but I guess they're out there, they're concerned because to keep the roads up, they need the tax from the fuel pump. So without that, now they're going to put a device on the electric cars that are going to charge people to their credit card a flat 1.5 cents per mile driven. And apparently, this is a volunteer thing that you can do.
I see.
And they, of course, they quoted people saying, "Oh, well, I want to be sure my roads are kept up, so I'm going to volunteer."
Right. I'm going to volunteer to pay more tax.
Right. So they have interviewed people saying
I
that.
think the seismic activity is frying their brains over there.
If they're really, they're probably just paid to say that. Anyway, legislation is being set up in the system to initially limit participation to 5,000 volunteers. So, hey, if you want to volunteer, I didn't know there were even 5,000 electric vehicles in the state of Oregon.
I'm sure there aren't.
But hurry and rush so that you get one of those spots so you'll be sure and have your roads maintained, right? And then it says that more than 10 states, including Florida, are in the process of drafting legislation for similar programs. So, watch for that to come.
No.
All right, then this was also interesting. This isn't exactly a news story, but it's now, I see they're bringing it out again. So the reason that they're bringing it out is because they're changing the way people think about death and dying. Apparently in Belgium, 1 in 20 deaths are now the result of euthanasia.
Really?
And I don't know if you knew this, and I'm thinking I might have read this, but apparently in February of 2014, they passed legislation saying that children can now be euthanized.
Really?
Yeah, and even in the Netherlands, apparently they allow children to be euthanized.
I just read a story, and I forgot where it was in Europe, where this woman was just depressed and she wanted to die. She was physically fine, and they said, "Okay, you can kill yourself."
Because anything, and I didn't write it all out because there's so much written. When I was doing my research on this story, it would take up the whole podcast. But it's exactly, it could be mental illness, it could be just they're depressed, it could be, life doesn't have any quality for them anymore.
They just go join ISIS.
Well, and what I read in one state was in the Netherlands last year alone, they euthanized 650 children.
What?
That's what they said.
Are you kidding?
No, because they said the parents didn't want to watch their children suffer.
I think they should euthanize the parents.
So, and it was interesting because I read a lot of things about this, and people were saying, okay, how it's okay to abort babies, it's okay to kill this person, that person. And, what are we doing? We're going back to the Nazi era,
right.
Except people are volunteering. Before in that era, people were forced. In this new coming era, people are volunteering. for these kind of horrendous
That's all
things.
programming.
So apparently it's not only Belgium and the Netherlands, but Switzerland, and Germany and Luxembourg
Not Luxembourg.
allow assisted suicide and euthanasia.
I'm going to be in Luxembourg.
Well, Switzerland and Germany only allow assisted suicide, it said, but it also says state-sanctioned euthanasia and assisted suicide are becoming increasingly common in Western Europe, and many Europeans seem untroubled by the practice. Colombia, it's illegal.
South America.
Yep. India.
Well, India, I understand why that,
Ireland.
Ireland, they're Catholic.
Mexico.
No me diga.
Yeah, and in America, in the U.S., apparently it's legal in Oregon, Washington, Montana, and Vermont.
All the states that allow pot.
Yeah. Get rid of them, I guess.
That's a clue.
Well, anyway, so I found this interesting, but they said in some countries, I'm not sure, it might be Belgium, but some of them are talking about children have to be at least 12 before they can make the decision.
Oh, because 12-year-old wouldn't understand that.
Well, you know
First
what?
of all, there's not even enough people in Belgium and Holland to start killing them.
Well, they said 1 in 20, and apparently, what do they call it? Suicide tourism.
Yeah, in Switzerland that's
is growing
Yeah.
for people who want to have a place to die. But I know this is controversial, but I'm going to say it anyway. It's like transgender people or children not knowing what sex they are. They don't, they need guidance and help.
They don't assist a depressed child to kill itself.
And-
That's horrible.
In fact, there was one man who wrote in one of these stories I was reading about how one doctor refused to help his mother die because she was just depressed. So she found another doctor and he did it. And he didn't even know it happened until he got news his mother had been done in.
These people should be beaten up.
So, but anyway, that's what's happening to our world. So, anyway, we just have to be aware of it, but we don't have to participate in it.
No wonder the aliens want to come and take over.
Yeah. In Montana, apparently there's a polygamous trio applying for a wedding license because they're claiming that now about marriage equality.
Are they Mormon?
It doesn't say that, but it just claims that, of course, it's illegal. But if the person who's applying, it was a man and 2 women, people, he said you can't have gay marriage without having polygamy be legal because that's denying him his civil rights.
Well, that's correct. Then the Mormons can have 15 wives again, and
back
the Orthodox Jews can have their thing going on, which they actually do in some parts of Brooklyn.
Yeah. Well, anyway, it says that now before they give him a final answer to this gentleman, they're going to consult with the county attorney's office. So they're legitimizing it enough to say
It's going to happen.
You can't just say no, of course. So that's
next thing. You have people marrying their dog. Well, they do that anyway.
Listen to this. Now then, the next besides polygamy is polyamorous.
Well, that's
Okay, so now the polyamorous people want to also be allowed to be married.
Mm-hmm.
And again, they say the same reasoning to protect same-sex marriage under the 14th Amendment could plausibly be extended to protect group marriages.
Of course it would.
Presuming it's consensual, because the idea is that a 3-person or 4-person union
or 6 or 10
is not fundamentally different from a 2-person union between consenting adults.
Exactly.
And then, now they're refuting because a lot of people are saying, just what you said, this could lead to bestiality and then people marrying their toasters. They say that's baseless, but we have seen that happen.
Got to be a hot marriage.
Yeah, but we have seen that happen in other countries. In India, a punishment.
Someone just married a building or something like that.
Well, in India, there was a man who was having sex with a cow, and so they forced him to marry the cow.
What?
This was a couple of years or so ago.
Oh my God.
So
talk about don't have a cow.
Yeah, but I'm just telling you that these things are coming along. So it's not.
Are you sure it wasn't just a very big, fat, ugly woman?
I'm just telling you, these things are happening, and it's going to continue. It will get worse. So. I agree with you. No wonder the aliens are coming because people are so messed up.
I think I might move to Mars. I might join that Martian Airlines.
Maybe, but anyway, it's like we've talked about before. If they can't control you, they're going to confuse you. If they can control you and confuse you, all the better. So here we go. And now this is something we haven't heard about for a while.
What?
So I'm curious if this is going to start coming back into the news. The zombies. Remember, zombies were all over the news, and they kind of faded away.
I know some personally.
Anyway, apparently the Norwegian Pearl in the January of 2016 is going to have a zombie cruise. So people are going to dress up like zombies and interact
that'll be
with
fun all day long.
Crew of The Walking Dead,
Yeah,
out in the middle of the ocean. So anyway, let's see what happens with the zombie craze. What's going to happen?
Really, these people just need to get smacked.
Well, see, this is the thing, I'm just going to throw this one in. I don't have a link for it, but, I've talked about the breastfeeding. It was kind of funny because on my Facebook page, There was a sign that said, if you're going to breastfeed, cover yourself. So the woman had her head covered. She'd covered herself.
That's funny.
That was funny. But the thing is, I breastfed 20 years ago. And, there was no big deal about it. Women did it. What was did? I usually just carried a towel and covered myself. And it was no big deal. And I think it's nice for everybody. I mean, it's just the way it should be. It's not everything needs to be just open for everybody to see. So anyway, but I didn't at home. In our home it was done. But anyway, now we have women refusing to shave their armpits. It's like, why does this have to be a thing? Like if this is going to be your personal choice, make it your personal choice, not a public choice.
Well, most of the world they don't anyway.
I know, but the point is that everything now has to be publicly discussed, decided, and legislated. And then you have to be on a group, and we have to have fight for this and fight for that. I mean, how ridiculous now. If you don't want to shave your arms, you don't have to. But like
I'm never going to do that.
We talked about, they have men taking all their hair off and the women putting all their hair back on. So, I mean, it's just more confusion for people. And these women who are refusing to shave their armpits, did you look at the...
I can't read, so I don't know.
Pit angels.
They are?
They're called pit angels.
Yeah, I think they're just called stupid hairy women.
Okay, and speaking of things along that line, of course, as everybody knows, we do eat meat, and we advocate that for
I'll do it again.
For the replication of your DNA and to keep your health up. So, but eat what you need and not overconsume, blah blah. Anyway, as most people know, the 4th of July was a big holiday in the U.S. It's now passed by the time you read
people
this.
Don't know what it means,
Well, it's supposedly about Independence
that they
Day.
interviewed people on the street and they asked them what it meant. And they said, "Oh, isn't that when the North overran the South?"
That was in the U.S.?
Yeah.
Well, they do those
brilliant
things.
People out there.
Anyway, apparently the Department of Agriculture, usually, and the 4th of July is like barbecue for here in the U.S. It's like in Labor Day in September, they barbecue. 4th of July, they barbecue. It's a
U.S.,
meat.
they barbecue for anything.
That's right. Especially in the summer. It's a
Which
meaty.
we found out that it's really not a barbecue. It's called grilling.
Well, that's really true. Anyway, it used to be barbecue before they had grills. So anyway, now the U.S. Department of Agriculture, instead of wanting people for the 4th to grill meat, they want them to grill fruit. Instead of a steak, you should have a piece of nectarine or a peach or a pineapple
on the barbecue.
On the barbecue. Well,
wouldn't it like melt and burn and
maybe, but pineapple is good for tenderizing meat because of the bromelain in it. So there's a reason for that. But they're telling you to not only do that, but they said that you should have a barbecue party, and USDA actually hosted a Twitter party. And they said, have you tried grilling romaine, which I've had that, avocado or pineapple. And then this was the weird thing. They suggest to grill watermelon slices.
How do you grill watermelon? It's water.
They said natural sugars caramelize. I don't know.
Yeah, after it falls through the grill into the coals.
Yeah, but I want to inform the USDA that watermelon isn't a fruit anyway. Watermelon, I've reported on this.
It's an herb.
No.
A vegetable.
It's a vegetable. It's like it's related to a cucumber.
A banana is an herb.
Yes.
Well, we should grill bananas.
Yeah, but grilled bananas would be okay. But this is, again, my point is now they're trying to turn people into fruit instead of into other
I don't
things.
think they have to try. That's already happening.
Okay, but now here's another food story for you.
Oh.
And this is one, and I told you this one was coming. There's a restaurant chain, which I never heard of it, called Wayback Burgers. Have you heard of that?
No.
Apparently they're all over the place.
Never heard of it.
Never heard of it either.
Obviously not in Michigan.
Not in Michigan, but apparently that chain has 95 locations from California to New York.
Except Michigan.
As far south as Florida, and a store in Buenos Aires.
Ooh.
And
That's
they
my favorite city.
are now adding crickets to their milkshakes.
Ugh.
And you should have heard this because according to this article, there was this April Fool's joke on Long Island, which is where you're from, where they added cricket powder. And because it was so popular, now they're adding it as extra protein.
Oh my goodness.
From farm-raised
insects, I'll just have to grow fruit.
Which is an alternative to other animal products that, listen to this, that carry a bigger carbon footprint. So again, this is more mind control and programming. This earth is not limited.
I think they need my footprint on their buttocks.
I'm talking about this month on my blog. The blog is called Look to the Spirit. And it's about how we are continually going outward instead of inward.
It's just ridiculous.
And, God mind is limitless. But everything here that they teach you about is limited. Limited resources, limited this, limited that. You can't have this, you can't have that. You always have to conserve. Well, God mind is limitless. You should be able to have anything and everything.
That's right.
So I want you to keep that in mind
I do have it
as
in
we
my
move
mind.
that along. And then the last story is kind of one of those do not do this at home.
A lot of things I shouldn't do at
No,
home.
like don't gold plate your genitals. Like we talked
I was
about
just
last
going
week.
to do that.
Well, especially from a stolen automotive gold plater thing.
Really?
Yeah, don't do
That's
that.
where I got mine.
Yeah, that's what I figured, so I'm telling you. Anyway, don't do this one at home. Apparently, and this was actually this article I'm going to be posting.
Didn't you talk about that last week?
What?
The gold plating thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
But so I said, don't do that one at home, and here's
Right.
another one. Don't do
Oh.
this one at home.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
I haven't told them yet.
Oh,
Or
I
yet.
thought that's what you were
No,
doing.
'cause
I thought you were having an elderly
Listen
moment.
to me. I saw you standing on the roof debating about jumping into our pool in the back.
Yes, I was. In the winter.
Yeah. So I'm going to tell you don't do that at home.
No?
Because more and more teens are doing this, and people are missing the pool and getting violently hurt.
Gee, you think? Were drugs or alcohol involved?
Well, it could be. I don't know. But I mean, apparently this is now the new rite of passage. Just go up on a roof, whether it's on a balcony from a 6-story hotel and jumping off into the pool, or on top of
brilliant.
the roof, or whatever.
Uh-huh.
So this is summer season.
Well, first they should gold plate their genitals and then
do.
jump.
But they
into
might
the
not
pool.
survive and do
So it'll
jump.
cool off the heating from the plating.
Yeah, but they might not survive the first thing, so that
Well,
they can
then that does-
actually
then it
jump.
doesn't
from the
matter,
bottom,
does it?
So. But anyway, don't do either one of those at home. And so if you see somebody or your friends
Yeah.
or you have children, talk to them, because this is really a stupid thing to do. And people's lives change in an instant from these kind of things.
Yeah, from life to death.
That's right. Or this one woman, her mother actually posted the video. I couldn't watch it. I'm posting the link. I couldn't watch
What?
it. About her jumping and breaking all her legs. I would not want to watch that.
Why would you do that?
She
Why?
did it to warn other people not to do it.
Wait, she broke her legs to warn people not to do that?
No, she was jumping from the roof. She missed the pool,
Oh.
but somebody was filming. They always film each other doing these crazy things.
Now, these are not bright people.
No, and so she wound up with 2 broken legs. Everything was splintered, in a wheelchair. I mean, it's just on and on. It's terrible. So,
These are brain dead people.
yeah, and then our last piece of news is we had talked about, we're going to see how this works. If you want to send us questions.
Oh, yeah, one question.
Well,
Not a book of questions per person. One question.
Well, let's first
Well,
of all
we're
find
gonna
out.
choose
Let's
anyway.
ask for one person, because what if we only get one person and they send in a book of questions? That might be good.
Well, we don't. You know how these
But
people
if we
are.
have 500 people sending questions, then
Okay, may I explain?
yeah, it could only be half a
We're
person
going to use
per
it's
question.
going to be an experiment, and you can send in one question about the news, not about the sinus issue you have or about your grandmother's underwear. It's about the news. It's a general question. And we will choose a question per week and
Well, you
answer.
might choose more than one.
Well, I'm choosing one.
You might.
You
want-
can choose all
If
the
I
ones you
have
want.
interesting questions, I'm going to choose more than one. And some people already are sending me stories on Facebook, which I appreciate, because a lot of times they're things I don't have time to, or if not
We don't have
seeing.
time to read all these things.
So it's good when you send them to me on Facebook. I appreciate that also.
And we can't have time to watch 4-hour videos either.
Yeah. No, I said that. Yes, send me links on Facebook. That's what I
Well,
just
you
said.
know what? It's all you.
Yeah.
I'm out of here.
Yeah. So anyway, you can do that if you have good stories. Oh, we didn't tell where to send it.
You tell them. I don't know where to send it.
Well, let's send it to Patricia. Okay, Patricia.
Or you could.
Customer support at expansions.com. You can send them there.
She could always delete them.
That's true. We'll make Patricia read them all. Anyway, so send them to customer support at expansions.com, your questions. And I thought you said they could ask you a personal question.
You can ask personal. I may not answer it, but
well,
you can
doesn't
ask
mean
me
we'll answer them,
personal
but
questions.
you can ask them like you said about.
And I will choose what I answer. I'm not
Right.
going to answer every question sent in.
No, and we
because
need
I know
to
some
know-
of them will send obnoxious
Yeah.
questions.
So we need to know your complete birth name and date of birth.
Why?
Because
It's not a consultation.
I know, but I want that way. If they're legitimate, they'll send that.
I don't
in.
need that.
No, I think
I'm
they
just
should.
going to answer questions.
And where they are, and also
if they want their name
yeah, if you want your name,
or code name or
yeah,
whatever.
or a code name or a first name or whatever. But this is just experiment, so we'll see what works and what doesn't. But we'll give it a try. See what happens.
Yeah.
We'll see how much fun we can have with you.
Yeah, and if it's obnoxious, I'm not going to do it anymore.
Or if it's obnoxious, he may answer it, but with an obnoxious answer, right? Because you're known for being obnoxious.
What the question? Can you tell us everything about everything? That's one question.
Yeah. So then you're
So the
probably
answer is
gonna,
just no.
yeah. So that's an obnoxious question. For
Well,
example,
you will get an obnoxious answer.
Right. So that's an example of what might happen.
But
if you do that.
seriously,
Yeah.
get good questions about the news. You want personal things about us, Nothing that's a consultation for you.
Yeah.
Questions like that are
Interesting
to others.
like us.
Right.
Okay, so with that said, we have in July, coming up right around the corner, we have our webinar on Green Star programming. And once you sign up for that, we will send you an invitation to send us something unusual that's happened to you or questions about Green Star programming, and we'll try and incorporate that into our webinar. Then we have one in August, which is actually ends on Montauk Day.
Right.
Which is Montauk and interdimensional existences, or realities, I think maybe that one is. And again, when you sign up for that, you'll get an invitation to send us questions that we'll try and incorporate for you. And then we have our radionics workshop coming up, where we are in the process of building radionics machines for those, or boxes, I guess we have to call them, right? Can we call them machines? Machines for people who are signing up. So if you want to come to this workshop, you have to let us know ASAP so we can get your box going. We do have payment plans for those as well if you need that. Then you can tell what your next stuff is. It's too complicated for me.
It's not complicated. The end of August I'll be in the UK until early September, and that will be on the site. And then from there I go to by way of Czech Republic to Poland to do work in Karpacz, Poland. It's in the mountains. Then I will be going to Trier, Germany, and Luxembourg. Then to Istanbul, Amman, Jordan, and Qatar. I love to say Qatar.
All right. Then in October.
Yeah. And in October.
Oh, we have a special announcement to make.
We do.
Yes, we do. In October.
Oh.
We have our annual conference.
Oh, I have it here, actually.
Okay, and we have special guests coming besides us, of course. So the theme is Hidden Histories and Mysteries, Digging Deeper. We have Mary Sutherland from Burlington, Wisconsin. She is a paranormal author, researcher, and tour guide, and she will be bringing some of her never-before-seen artifacts, but she's been posting some things on our Facebook page, so that should be fascinating. We have Steve Spirason, who's going to be talking about the Isis connection to the Magdalene frequency, which should be fascinating. And we have just recently confirmed that Christopher Garetano, the producer of Montauk Chronicles, will actually be showing the Montauk Chronicles movie at the conference, and he and Stewart will be available for a Q&A following the movie. So you want to be sure and come for that. We're going to have lots of interesting things going on.
Yes.
And then after that, then you're proceeding back to Europe.
Poland, by way of Moscow, by the way. And then to Berlin. And then to Singapore by way of Turkey again. And then from Singapore to Bali. And then from Bali back to Qatar. And then home again.
And then?
And then I come home for 3 minutes, and then I'm going to some place outside of Milan, which I know the name of it.
Well, Borgognero, something like that. I didn't write it down. Borgognero.
I don't know, but that's a time travel conference.
Yes, that's a time travel, so watch for information on that one. In January, of course, is our week-long hyperspace oversoul extravaganza.
Yes.
So that's always a lot of fun.
And I just say, as an aside, that recently we've connected to a couple of people in various parts of the world who are either have already opened or in the process of opening healing centers based on our work, and have invited us to visit, to maybe have our seminars and conferences at these locations. And so it's very exciting, and that will happen in 2016.
Yeah, so we have a lot of things going on here for you, so you have to stay tuned.
Yes.
Thank you very much for liking our Facebook fan pages, and for inviting your friends to like our Facebook fan pages.
Correct.
For joining our site and supporting us via your membership. It's very minimal, $17 a month. Gets you the Q&A, all our blogs, the affirmations, private articles, interaction with Stewart and I on a daily basis. So we appreciate your membership and your support of expansions.com, so expansions.com can continue to support you.
And we won't be here next week.
But we're going to talk about that later, not now.
Oh, we are?
Yes.
Oh, so just ignore everything I've just said in the last 30 seconds.
Because that was a secret.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I would be probably just going to go plate my privates afterwards. But
I'll make you jump off the roof.
Or jump off the both.
Into the pool. Okay, so with that said, we will speak soon.
Bye.
Bye-bye.